One of the hottest topics this year certainly has been those weeds, especially in soybean fields. Dicamba, an important tool to control that problem, and now new guidance from the EPA. Here's more. Well, Jenny, we've got some guidance now from the EPA on dicamba. In a nutshell, kind of what have they told us?
So, Steve, the EPA did release a statement last week, or about a week ago at this point, where they've been working with Monsanto and BASF and DuPont on the formulations for the soybean formulations for dicamba, basically looking at some new label restrictions, and those restrictions include making them restricted use pesticides, meaning that all the farmers who are using these products or ag industry people would need to be certified applicators. And then some other specific things regarding wind speeds. So we know it's being reduced from 15 miles per hour last year to 10 miles per hour this year. So 3 to 10 miles per hour is one of the things on the label requirements. There's some other things in there too regarding training, regarding some other changes that they're recommending, but they're pretty broad yet to know exactly what they mean. Most of this is going to be mandated on the pesticide label, and so we'll just kind of have to wait to see what the labels actually say.
But the bottom line remains, given especially the palmer problems we have around here, we need tools to be able to attack that problem.
Right, so we did observe this past year that dicamba is a great tool in our toolbox for combating our weed problems like palmer amaranth.
And I should ask, this summer there were a lot of concerns about the cupping issue. Now that we're at harvest, I haven't heard as many complaints. Did that appear to be mostly kind of a cosmetic thing that we grew out of it, or have you seen any yield hit from any of that, or what are your general observations?
For the most part, I'm not hearing complaints. And you know, Steve, that's a good question too that you bring up on that. Your viewers are reading a lot of information that we're all seeing in the news from states across the country. And one thing that I don't think, while your viewers know this, I don't think we're thinking about it or hearing much about it. We grow indeterminate soybeans in Nebraska. So that means that basically when those soybeans start flowering, they continue to develop trifoliates throughout the rest of the growing season up to a certain point. In the southern states, they're determinate soybeans, meaning they stop developing trifoliates once those soybeans start flowering. And so when we're hearing a lot of this yield loss information and even the research from the southern states, it's different than our situation here in Nebraska because we're blessed. We continue to get those trifoliates, and what we observed this past year is those plants were able to grow out of the damage in many situations where we either had rainfall or we had irrigation.
First those painted ladies, then pirate bugs, now another insect, but no need to worry. NTV's Lauren Coomer explains.
An extremely important predator, the ladybug, feeding on aphids and other small insects that eat crops.
When we have a lot of those aphids or other small insects in the environment, then the ladybug population increases enough to meet the food supply that they have. And so there's been quite a few of them out there.
Dr. Seymour says ladybugs are very beneficial to have.
They feed on these pest insects both in their larval stage and then in their adult stage. And so this time of year, we're seeing kind of the culmination of the full season where they've been feeding and doing well.
Now with harvest season, there's no place for ladybugs in the crops, which is why we're seeing so many.
These lady beetles overwinter in protected areas, and so they're flying to find those places. And sometimes it's on the edges of fields, at the base of trees where we have leaves. Sometimes it's in people's houses. But because they're moving around, we're seeing a lot more of them than what we might normally see.
Many adults reappearing in the spring and laying their eggs to start the new season.
We have a much lower population because not nearly as many will survive through the winter. And so then they'll kind of start over next spring and hopefully do their good work for us in the coming summer.
Dr. Seymour says with the damage these pests can cause, ladybugs help to avoid crop loss or use of insecticides.
We just need to try to depend on those natural beneficial insects that are out there, and try to do whatever we can to promote where they're going to be.
Weather's up next, plus cattle and Cornhuskers will explain.